Yo! Let me get this screen. Oh, hello. I'm not sure if this is a good time to be streaming, but it's the earliest I could after the chapter. There's so much to talk about, and I just friggin' this is like the best chapter we've had in ages. Oda's really stuck to his strength here. Um, I think he's much better at doing like these kind of montage shotgun kind of chapters where he does like a million different scenes all at once rather than focusing on a single event. I think with big events like God Valley, while they're awesome, you get a Oda's very good at hype, so you get an image in your head about what it's gonna be like, and he sometimes subverts that, and it goes in a completely different direction, and he's balancing so much and is doing a lot of stuff off screen now. But I think these kinds of chapters where he focuses, like he doesn't focus at all. Actually, he just like I think in this chapter he does the span of like 20 years, and to me this is like chapter 02. So it's one of the most interesting chapters we've had in a long time, and in my opinion, anyway. Um. So yeah, where was I saying? Um. I'm gonna breeze right past the cover story because it's kind of, you know, crap. We've got a cat burglar, much like Nami, stealing a book, and this book is just saying Fish Encyclopedia. I'm not too sure there's much relevance about this. It's just a fish encyclopedia. Um, but yeah, they have a soft spot for her because it reminds them of Nami. Um, yeah, I can't really see any more to say about that. So I'm just gonna go straight away. This is chapter 1167, Ida's Son. So we've got Oda being hyped about getting 8D audio. I'm honestly I don't know what that is, but it's probably something cool. Um, I don't think I'm rich enough for 8D audio. I just want to get right into it. This is gonna be a bit of a speed run, just because it's so late where I am. I'm gonna put on some atmospheric music and get right into it. 33 years ago, 5 years after God Valley, I could have sworn that pirates were approaching us off the shore, a post God Valley world. So the guy's neck tattoo here. Apparently, I've asked a friend about it. Apparently, it means like he's a braggart. So like he just likes to talk big, right? So this is kind of like what we're getting here. We're getting a tall tale. I think my music's too loud. I'm gonna just hopefully I didn't like audio bang anyone. Crap, I can't see my mouse. Okay, there we go. That's better. Okay. Um. So we've got Morgan's here doing some interviewing. Like, the prime journalist he is. This is before he had I think he was a one-man operation at this time. We've got like a Big Ben structure in the background. I'm wondering if this is Cavendish's home country. But yeah, they're saying something huge emerged from the shadows behind the pirates, and we get to see Impel Down, the underwater prison. Everything just went kaboom after that. Our ship was in ruins before we knew it. We were nothing but fish food. Sure, it wasn't a Sea King attack? No way, it was human shaped. And we cut to yet another person reporting on this. Don't tell me you're in the infamous waters known as the Florian Triangle. I am so glad Oda hasn't forgotten about the Florian Triangle. I feel like this scene just exists just to remind readers about it. But they're like, no, we know not to fish there. We know to avoid it. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, picking up from last chapter, during this period, a rumor began to circulate among the Grand Line countries. They said a monster lurked deep in the foggy seas, targeting certain pirate crews. Honestly, the music's just distracting me. I'm gonna get rid of it. The identity of that monster was none other than Harold, who few who ever sailed those seas had even seen a giant with their own eyes. So to them, he was nothing short of the living embodiment of fear. Harold now worked in the shadows to back up the Navy as part of his atonement for the last 1,000 years. So yeah, I mean, Harold. This is clearly his ship because it's got a Viking warhead. I don't know where the mist is coming from. I don't know if he's got someone with a devil fruit ability, but he's striking from the mist, and I honestly don't know why the government would want to keep Harold's allegiance to them secret. You'd think they would want to make him a warlord or their poster boy or something, but yeah, I mean, he's just basically doing cleanup for the government. Meanwhile, the pirates who had gone their separate ways after God Valley continued to rise in prominence, and over the next decade or so, each of them would peak to become a defining face of their generation. Most of these pirates simply clashed over territory. However, one crew broke through the others and achieved a feat long believed to be impossible. They circumnavigated the entire world. And yeah, we got victory shots with Roger and the crew. It's pretty sweet. But Buggy is in the Nika pose, which is that's gonna it's gonna upset some people. They were hailed as the crew of the King of the Pirates, Gold Roger. The public execution of the captured pirate king was meant to be serve as a spectacle, a display of the world government's power. This is all stuff we know, so I'm breezing through it. The world was plunged into even greater. However, the world was plunged into even greater turmoil as countless souls set out in pursuit of the vast treasure that Roger left behind, the One Piece. No one had anticipated the advent of the Great Pirate Era. Navy headquarters found itself caught off guard. As a result, more than 10 giants were drafted into the Marines from all over the world. So this is probably where they got Soul from and stuff like that. I don't know why they're going for giants in this era in particular. Like, maybe just, giants are strong, but I'm wondering if Harold being, on side influenced any of this, but hey Sonic, what's up, dude? Or dudette? I don't actually know. Thanks for tuning in. During the stretch of time, Harold waited on the Navy hand and foot. And we've got all of the celestial dragons being like, oh, he's an ancient giant, I want as a slave, look how big he is. And that very year, he was finally granted formal permission to visit the Holy Land. A shallow sea contract. This room is enormous. For Harold to fit on the interior is crazy. I want to know what door he went through. Did he crawl to get in here? Like, it's unbelievable. I want to say, did they teleport him in? Because we're about to talk about what the shallow sea contract is. But yeah, I mean, let's just get right into it. That is correct. Consider yourself the right hand of the God's Knights. God's Steel. So this is the same thing as Gunko was a couple of chapters ago. It's like a training wheels version of being a God Knight. The devoted blade of God is what Viz went with. Which is interesting. It's a great honor. And he gets this tattoo, which is like, it's like a skull and crossbones, but it's the world government logo. But with a circle. I mean, it kind of looks like a target, doesn't it? But, yeah. I don't know if this particular mark comes with any powers, but the fact that Harold had to get one to make this shallow sea contract, it's going to be very relevant later in the chapter. So we'll discuss it when we get there. There are 3 levels of contract. The shallow sea contract is a more minor pact. The deep sea and deep sea contracts are reserved for those who are bound to who are fully bound to the true God. Only 13 individuals in the entire world receive that privilege. So I'm wondering if the 13 doesn't include the Gorosei, who have deep sea contracts, obviously. and the remaining 8 are all deep sea contracts, and they're just the God's Knights. So if there's only 8 of them, or if it's, I mean, it's definitely 13 between the two categories, and we can assume that they have the deepest contract possible, but who knows? Um, but yeah, we've got what do you mean by God? Okay, I'm gonna get a bit irritated here. Are you telling me, for real, that after all the times that Rox tried to convince Harold, being like, my guy, the government are evil, he never mentioned the friggin' demigod, like, who's being a dictator of the entire world, who has manipulated all of world history? He just never mentioned it. I don't get it. I really don't. Um, it's kind of ridiculous. I'm not gonna lie. um, Rox should have told Harold everything he knew. But honestly, Harold's so delusional. I don't know if he would listen. But yeah, it it's just boggles the mind. Like, all of these tragedies happen because the good guys don't talk to each other. Anyway, you will only come to know the greatest depths of this world on the day you become a full God's Knight. He forgot Jim Borat? Jim Borat. That's very good. It's like Jimbei and Borat. How did he forget? Are you kidding me? This guy is like, Harold, join my crew. You gotta. I need the Gaudi law. The government sucks. Don't you know? Like, they even, like, Harold even reacted to the government killing a bunch of people. Like, he watched a genocide happen and cried about it. Like it was the chapter where he shaved his head, remember? And Rox was like, what is that? Some kind of, like, ceremony, like, of atonement? Which, honestly, who got Harold on this atonement kick? Because the next thing he did was rip off his horns. Like, God knows what he's gonna get rid of next. Like, Loki, I know I was a bad father, but I'm gonna remove my mustache to show you how much I mean. Like, it's just. Anyway. um, could Elbeth become a member nation then? Harold, there's only 8 in the world. This is not necessary to be a member. I just feel like Harold should know that he's being strung along, and I feel like on some level he does know, but he's so coping right now because he bet on the wrong horse and he's stuck to this path of serving the government. I would love, like, could you imagine if Rox lived to see this? Like, he spent 20 years courting the guy only for him to. Naturally, Harold, at that point, the entire world would be clamoring to welcome you. I'm grateful for this opportunity. Yeah. The thing is, he earnestly looks happy. So, like, my guy. You almost pity him. You almost do. Actually, okay, I'm gonna really pity him by the end of the chapter, but we'll get there. Captain of the Knights of God, Figureland family, Saint Garling. The Knights Temple, Shangara. I don't know if this has anything to do with Shandora, or Shangri-La, like the mythical city. It's got all of these columns and stuff. I mean, the Shan part of it, I'm like, whoa, maybe Shanks was named after this. Like, maybe Garling, when he, like, hit on Shanks' mother, he's like, man, you need to see the most beautiful city, Shangara, that I live in. And she's like, I'll name one of our kids Shanks. But I'll talk about Shanks more later. What is the Great One planning? Is he talking about the Rock? You're gonna obey us even though you're the king of Elbaf? Of course, just say the word. We'll keep a long-distance transponder sail on hand if we have any need of you. You'll be free to travel the surface world, but you're forbidden to speak of our dealings. Understood. So like they have no need for him at the moment, so they just send him back down to roam the seas. And where does he go? Fishman Island, which I guess makes sense. It's directly beneath it. I kind of wish we had a scene of him with Neptune before when he was making all of those pacts and alliances. Just so we knew they were friends. But yeah, 20 years ago, Ryukyu Kingdom, Fishman Island. I'm not gonna do their laughs. If I had like a million viewers, I'd do their laughs just for, you know, the memes, but I think I'm too embarrassed to do it right now. I think I'll just feel like an insane person laughing in his room. But I haven't laughed this hard in a long time, Neptune. Me too, pal Jamon. We both have our fair share of headaches, don't we? Honestly, I don't think I don't think Neptune has any headaches at the moment. I mean, I know fishmen deal with a lot of racism, and I don't want to be, insensitive about that. But this is before Shirahoshi's stalker issue. This is before Otohime died. This is before Fisher Tiger became the captain of the Sun Pirates. So, like, what are you dealing with? As far as I'm concerned, like, you've got the occasional pirates swarming in, but this is before the Great Pirate era, so it hasn't really gotten that bad. Um, so I actually no wait, is this post this 20 years ago? So yeah, this is post even getting the protection from Whitebeard. So I actually don't know what's so bad about it right now for him. To be honest, I don't think your son is that bad deep down. Let's not forget how your youth was like. Well, when you put it like that, I'm just being brutally honest. Anyway, did I tell you Anyway, did I tell you a fortune teller predicted that I'd have a daughter in 4 years, Jamon? So we saw this happen 6 years ago with Roger. Um, when the time is right, why don't we betroth Loki to my future daughter? Now you're going too far. Cut it out. Hey, don't write her off just because she. Don't write her off so fast. She's not going to be any old mermaid. My daughter might well be born with a power that no one else could ever hope to handle, Jamon. Why? I know he's drunk. I know he's drunk. But why? Why are you revealing this, Harold? This is top secret information, and this guy is a God's Knight. Or at least God's Knight adjacent. This is ridiculous. Um. Anyway. Well, now that does sound like a perfect match. Let's have a toast. Here's to the future of my mischievous troublemaker, and your little Mosa Mosa. Don't call her that. She won't be Shaggy. So, okay. You can go a few ways. Maybe Oda is lurking online and he's just trolling us. But I know a lot of us did think that Shirahoshi could be Mosa Mosa just because in the Roger flashback he was like, "Oh, your daughter will be Moja, like she'll be Harry." And Mosa Mosa Moja Moja, it's like the same thing, really. Um, so yeah, I mean, like it was hard to tell if Mosa was going to be a proper name or a nickname because you only really know it's Harry when it's like doubled up like that, or Shaggy. Um, so I think the aim here was to try and harmonize the nickname with the potential real name. So like Mosa Mosa, hey Shaggy. So like you can know intuitively that Mosa means Shaggy. From the dialogue. At least that was the aim. Um, but it's kind of I don't know where to go with this because like Mosa does not speak like Neptune because he's not saying Jamon on the phone all the time. But at the same time, I didn't get the vibes that she spoke like Shirahoshi because Shirahoshi speaks the most comically polite Japanese. And Mosa is polite and a bit, beats themselves up, but I didn't get the idea that it was that bad. Maybe Shirahoshi's improving, but like she's so respectful of everyone. Like I remember like when Garp showed up and she was escorting her to Reverie, she was like Luffy Sama's grandfather Sama. Like literally doubling up on Sama like that. It's amazing. Um but I guess this is just, the flag that fans were right and Shirahoshi is Musa. But if that's the case, I mean, it is possible that, Shirahoshi didn't turn out to be Harry, so, like, maybe Musa is just, Loki's nickname for Neptune, but I don't think so. I mean, it's hard to say, like, did Harold be like, yo, I betrothed you to Neptune's hairy daughter when she's gonna be born, and so that name just stuck in Loki's head, and he's been calling her that ever since. I mean, maybe. Um, but yeah, it's kind of weird. But if if there's like some kind of situation going on with Shirahoshi right now where she's under attack or something, it's hard. It's really hard to like guess where the story goes after Elbaf because I think Shirahoshi being in trouble is something Luffy would divert for. Especially if Loki tells Luffy exactly who Mosa is. But at the same time, you would think that Loki would be a bit more familiar with Luffy, like that Shirahoshi would not be able to shut up about Luffy. It's weird. It's weird. Like, was because the weird thing is that Shirahoshi was a sheltered princess who, like, they wouldn't even let her leave her room, but they would let her talk to a convict on the phone for 6 years. Someone who was accused of killing her father. Her father, who is Harold's best friend here, apparently. I mean, no, is Neptune's best friend. How does that work? Like, oh, my daughter, you've had a stalker, like, preying on you your entire life. But don't worry, I will give you a long distance Dendenmushi. And you'll be able to, like, maybe she sneaks out of the tower occasionally and uses whatever setup Harold used to talk with to Loki, and maybe the Dendenmushi, the long distance Dendenmushi, which Loki uses, is the one which Harold got from the God's Knights in this very chapter. But I'm not sure about it. I'm really not sure. But like, oh my daughter Shirahoshi, like, Jamon, you need to have a pen pal while you're up here locked in this tower. So I'm gonna put you in touch with my best friend's son who killed my best friend, Jamon. It's just kind of ridiculous. Speaking of a bit silly, the same year, Owl Library Elbaf. Don't mention it. You're welcome to live freely here, soul. Thanks a bunch. Actually, there's one thing I'd like to ask. What is it? If we get other learned folks on Elbaf to help, would you be willing to open a school here? A school, huh? That's a nice idea. Excuse you? Okay, so Harold works for the government here. I assume government officials visit him occasionally. Did they just not visit Elbaf for the next 20 years? And, like, because the school's not secret, the school's not hidden, it's not Hogwarts. You can just go there. So, like, it, like Harold has to know Soul is a friggin' defector Marine, right? Unless Soul told him nothing. But then Soul asked everyone to go back to Ohara to get the books. So how does this make sense? Like, I'm glad he did it, but like, is he like, oh, I'll serve the government, but I'll only tell them what they explicitly, like, order me to do? What if the government was like, oh, execute that guy? Would he do it? Because, he sacrificed everything else. He sacrificed rocks. This scene needed more meat. This is the second scene in the chapter that I think should have been a bit longer. Oda is just friggin' speed running the next 20 years of history, because next we've got 15 years ago a major incident occurred at the Holy Land of Merijua. My slaves are running away. They broke the cells. Hurry, or do you want to be a pet forever? And we see Fisher Tiger, and he runs into the streets of the domain of the gods, and there's a lone figure standing there, and he's like, damn it, is that a god's knight? Does he know about the god's knight because he lived in Merijua as a slave, or are the god's knights a publicly known thing? Anyway, he breaks his handcuffs and tries to punch the person, but the person says, listen, the armory will be left unlocked for you. I'll tell you the location. And there's a time skip panel here. This is super relevant because if you read the Fisher Tiger flashback, he actually escapes from Merijua, goes down and says hi to Jinbei and Arlong, visits the king and says that he saw humans in a really epic, angry pose, and then tells him, I'm gonna cause some trouble, and then climbs back up to break everyone out. So was Shanks oh no, I shouldn't have spoiled that. Was the shadowy figure here I will leave the armory open in a month, so come back if you want to free more people? Or I want to know if this mysterious figure who I will not spoil, if he was the one who broke their cells, or if Fisher Tiger broke out and this mysterious figure is taking advantage of that opportunity. It could I honestly don't know. It could go either way, but either way, Fisher Tiger takes advantage of this opportunity, but the way Oda has presented it makes it seem like it's just one event. Like Fisher Tiger broke out and went to the armory and started blowing stuff up, which is not how we knew it before. So either this is a mistake, or a month or so must pass here. Because Fisher Tiger is meant to escape 16 years ago and start blowing stuff up 15 years ago. So, yeah, I mean, I assume that Oda just forgot, but this one time skip panel might save him. We'll see what the SBS and what the volumes say. But yeah, kaboom! Yeah, what? Gunpowder? Hurry, big sis! Sandersonia. There's someone out there. Someone fighting to free us from this hell. I almost went with raising hell to free us from this hell. Hurry, Koala. You have to run. I don't know if this is Koala is in the same cell as as Hancock here, or if this is just a separate scene. It's so hard to tell with Oda's modern paneling. It could be either of these. But I mean, there's nothing to say that Hancock didn't know Koala. This attack on the Holy Land was carried out by Fisher Tiger. In the wake of this incident, he would go on to become the captain of the Sun Pirates, which is one of the saddest flashbacks ever. Sounds like it was pretty rough. They say someone with the government must have left the armory open. Now it's up to us to find the culprit. There's someone I want to introduce you to, Harold. His name is Shanks. Okay, now I can spoil it. Shanks was the one who left the armory open, so we knew that Shanks must have spent some time in the Holy Land, because Shamrock said. But my god, we did not imagine it like this. I mean, I kind of did, but whew, I am not going to say wrapped, because I actually think that this is really good for Shanks' character. This makes him way more interesting to me. But you're kind of glad they did this with Fisher? How come, Carl? His feat was absurd. Oh, climbing in and being let in. I mean, it kind of was a bit, silly from a power scaling perspective, but, Actually, wait. I just remembered that he died to Strawberry. Someone who Jinbei, breaks over his back and, snaps in half. Like Vice Admiral Strawberry. I forgot about that. So, yeah, maybe Fisher Tiger isn't the strongest character. But, I didn't have a trouble with it because it's kind of like Doflamingo attacking the Celestial Tribute ship. Like they just don't think anyone has the balls to attack the Celestial Dragons directly. So I could buy that, security was lax and he had known the layout from being a slave there for a while. Strawberry is greater than Garling. Maybe he is. I mean, have you seen how long his head is? But that scales Jinbei above Garling as well. And I assume Garling is probably stronger than Saturn. So Jinbei would beat Saturn for sure. He was just lazing about in Egghead. Oh man, Oda. Let's continue. Yeah, there's someone I want to introduce you to. Shanks. He's Shamrock's younger brother. They were separated they're separated a long time ago due to circumstances. Yeah, I was genociding their mother's island, and I meant to groom them both. However, I only got one. I'm kind of annoyed that Oda didn't show his immediate reaction to the babies mix up because I want to know if Viz was right about that or not. Because Viz had it so that the guy on the other end misheard that it was, one baby instead of two. Whereas obviously in Japanese, like when you say baby, it could be one, it could be two. He just didn't, he didn't use tachi to like specify that there was multiple. Um, what Viz did was pretty clever, but I actually wonder if the other character knew if there was more than one baby, or if they just assumed there was one. I mean, Shamrock obviously knew because the mother showed him, but I don't know if he was that specific. In fact, I don't even get why Shamrock even left the babies there if he was just gonna get them and raise them himself. Like when he stabbed the woman, like their mother, he should have just picked up the babies and left. Like I know he had a tournament to like participate in, but he could like hand them to a slave or someone who minds his household or something. But like he stabs her, goes away, starts to participate in the tournament, but apparently tells his his men, "Oh, by the way, one of the people they've got two babies. Go pick them up." Like it's kind of weird. It is kind of weird. It exists just for the sake of Dragon to have his character moment. What makes sense to you? The Jinbei power scaling or Shamrock's and Garling's ridiculous logic? Anyway, he suffered many hardships in the surface world. If he were to form a deep sea contract, I believe he'd make a great asset on par with Shamrock. This is interesting. Does this imply that suffering makes you stronger when you take the contract? I probably not because I assume that Shamrock hasn't suffered a day in his life. But who knows? It's a weird way of saying that. Like maybe he says hardship because he means like, oh, he's been through so much crap, it's strengthened him, and now if he gets the boost of the deep sea contract, he'll be on par with my boy Shamrock. He didn't want to dirty his hands with gross babies, of course. Oh man, he's like a trad dad. He's like, oh, I'm not gonna change diapers. I'm not gonna change their clothes right after I stab their mother in front of them. They've got blood all over their clothes. We need to have a babysitter to change them. No. He probably would be like that though, wouldn't he? I'd be surprised if he even like, had a single father son bonding moment with Shamrock until Shamrock was strong enough to like kill his first, fishman or something. Um, for the time being, he's been given the rank of Godsteel, just like you. I know I said the same thing when I first met Shamrock, but I can't shake the feeling that I've met you before. I don't know what this means. I think Oda like didn't include a scene where Harold meets the Roger Pirates when he brought like maybe we'll get a flashback soon. I feel like Oda is deliberately being like, okay, I want a Shanks flashback, so I can't reveal everything right now. But I do kind of feel like Harold should have like either seen Baby Shanks with Roger, or like maybe it's about Harold, maybe because same vibes because they're from the same place. It's a bit odd, but we've got Shanks with the A1 first class degree level LARPing performance here, where he's just doing his best Shamrock impression. I don't know what you're talking about. You're just some giant commodore from the surface. Don't act so familiar with me. I was blessed from birth with Figerland blood in my veins. Have no doubt I'm gonna become a god knight before you. Guess I mistook you for someone else. And we've got a reaction shot from Shanks. I feel like, being a dick kind of like drains it from him. um, okay, so I'm obviously of the opinion that Shanks is, double agenting because of, he let the slaves out. But also, timeline wise, this is 15 years ago. This is after he's formed his pirate crew, which was 22 years ago. We see in chapter 0 that yeah, Shanks is laying it on thick. 100% acting. I mean, like, he's a solid actor. Then he's like fooled everyone. And he's already a pirate at this point. 22 years ago he meets Yasop in chapter 0, and is like, "Oh, I'm looking for a man named Yasop." And so that seems like the beginning of his crew. I mean, maybe it's not, because we know that in 24 years ago, he had no intention of going after the One Piece, which upset Buggy, which is why they had their breakup. But I guess he still wanted to be a pirate because he went to get Yasop. But it's possible that he went to get Yasop for another reason, because, Yasop has some features that are very similar to Blackbeard. He's got the eyelashes and the thick lips. And I've always thought that maybe they're related. So maybe, like, he's like, "Oh, Yasop, you were on God Valley. Let's hang out and talk about our old homeland." But probably not. Probably Yasop's just, famous for being a good local sniper. But it's interesting because, like, we don't see him recruit anyone else in Chapter 0. I think Oda just put that in there so that we know roughly when Yasop first left Syrup Village. I mean, obviously, he had to go back to Father Usopp, but I am not sure, I'm not sure why, like, whether he got Ben Beckman or Ripper Roo at this time. Lucky Roo, sorry. Ripper Roo is from something else. Um, it's a bit weird, but he seems to, like, have turned Buggy down about going and being a serious pirate, but started to recruit a crew. But here he's got the scars from fighting Blackbeard. So I don't know if he fought Blackbeard as a god's like steel, or if or if fighting Blackbeard is what triggered him to go back and learn about his past. I mean, he obviously knew about it because he had this crying fit with Roger. There's so much to dissect here. Like, okay, let me just spell out the timeline. 38 years ago, Roger picks up Shanks. We saw this in the chapter last week. 24 years ago, Roger dies. Shanks is like 13. He and Buggy have an argument because Shanks doesn't want to join Shanks doesn't want to go after the One Piece. He just wants to be a joyful pirate. He even says, "Buggy, oh, let's team up," and Buggy turns him down because he's like, "Oh, Roger was counting on you." Although I'm not sure he was, because Roger kept saying, "Oh, my son will find One Piece." He wasn't like, "Oh, Shanks will find it." And, like, if they really wanted to, they could have just given them all the details on how to get there on their own. Um, which, who knows if they, like, maybe Shanks even has those details. But yeah, okay, so 24 years ago, Roger dies. Then 22 years ago, Shanks starts his crew. This takes place 15 years ago, which is when he apparently fought Blackbeard recently. And I guess that must have motivated him to go and start LARPing here in Marijua. And then 3 years after this is Chapter Zero, which is like, I mean, sorry, Chapter One. So it's like in 3 years' time, he goes from this to like in 3 years' time, he goes from that to this. It's like, wow. Could you imagine if Luffy saw this? Shanks says everything felt alien to him. Maybe he was pretending he had amnesia when he was a pirate. Maybe, but he was like, oh, I was always disdainful of them. Like, he's acting like he hated being it. I could see that panel being a retcon to fit. Maybe. Hey Dexter. Yeah, the timeline is wild. From Celestial Dragon to looking homeless. It is such a glow down, isn't it? Like, look at this fit. Look at the cravat he's rocking. Yeah, that's what this is called, a cravat. And he goes from this amazing naval Roger jacket to like the hobo straw hat. Like, where did he keep the straw hat? Where did he send his crew? Like, I'm wearing a straw hat right now. Did he give it to me? Did he give me the straw hat? Like, did he tell his crew, hey y'all, I know I lost my eye in that last fight with that fat guy on Whitebeard's ship. I kind of want to go to my family to rehab this. Can we call a timeout and we're gonna reconvene in like a year, okay? And in the meantime, he goes and like joins the Gods Knights and stuff. But what's even more interesting is that he's formed a Shallow Sea contract, and so he must have a tattoo like Harold here, which is on his left hand. And we know Shanks is a lefty because we see that his sword hand is over here. And we know that Shanks loses his damn left hand. So is Oda telling me that friggin' Shanks got his arm cut off on purpose, and it's like a 2-for-1, right? He gets to groom this child who's a lot like Roger, and is the son of the famous revolutionary and of Garp's grandson, right? There, his number, Shanks probably grew up running away, like, oh, it's Garp, let's run. So like, he like literally seeks out friggin' Garp's grandson, grooms the kid by being like, such a cool guy around him, gets his arm cut off to show him the meaning of a real scar, because Luffy has the stupid, I'll stab my eye where Shanks has a scar, so I'll be brave. Um, and then like, he like gets Luffy to like understand the meaning of true like bravery and being a pirate and how cool it is. And at the same time, he rids himself of the friggin' mark on his arm, which was probably like has some kind of tracking, like, teleporting mechanics tied to the tattoo. Because, how else is Harold randomly ambushed at the end of his life? They probably teleported all of those people, or like, dummy reverse seed him or something because of the tattoo. So Shanks is like, crap, I now I've got to get rid of my arm. Is that how Shanks learned about it? Like, did he learn about Rock, like, friggin' Harold's fate, and he's like, okay, I guess I gotta get rid of this arm? I kind of hate it, because, like, it takes a really brave, endearing moment and, like, makes it super manipulative. His homeless look is a vibe. Roger also threw the straw hat while fighting Rocks, didn't he? Yeah, but temporarily. I mean, Luffy used to do that all the time before, like, they got a friggin' a cord so that he could hang it around his neck. Um, Maybe he went to the same rock where where Luffy leaves it in the time skip and left it there, and he's like, the pirate Straw Hat Shanks is taking a break right now. uh, there's so much to unpack here. Shanks is probably LARPing about all this. but I wouldn't be surprised if Oda wants us to be deeply suspicious of him in certain regards. Like, not that he's evil, but he's a bit ends justify the means. Um, like kind of like how Dragon's a bit pragmatic and he waits for the right moment, but Shanks did actually do something by freeing Fisher Tiger here, so he's doing good while he can, and he is learning about the enemy here. I want to know, like, could you imagine if? Oh God. Okay, imagine we're getting really like tinfoil hat conspiracy here, but like, imagine if he's like a quadruple agent, right? So he's like he was a pirate. He comes back and he's like, "Oh, yo, I'm a friggin' Figureland. Make me a God's Knight." And he proves his strength. And they're like, "Okay, I guess, but we're keeping an eye on you." He spends a couple of years as a Figureland, and then the government are like, "Hey, you know what? You're a pirate. You used to scrap with Mihawk. You were up and coming. Why don't we make you go back out there so you can be a warlord? Not a warlord, a Yonko." And it's like a controlled opposition thing where, like, they're always controlling one quarter of the sea through Shanks, but Shanks isn't really on their side. Shanks is playing them, but they think Shanks is playing everyone else on their behalf. So there's a traitor of a traitor of a traitor. Like, oh god, I could actually see Oda doing that. Like, where the world government thinks that Shanks only went back to be a pirate on their behalf because they're pretty chummy with Shanks. We still don't know if it was Shanks or Shamrock who was in that room in Reverie. It was probably Shamrock, but we don't know because of his scar, like the angle. It was probably Shamrock. Um, but they were like, "Oh, since it's you, we'll end the war" and stuff like that. I still don't think he lost the arm intentionally. Um, that's fair, Jim. I think it would be detrimental to chapter one if Shanks did lose it on purpose. But it might be stronger for the chapters now. So that's why I'm a bit torn on it because I think having a bit of doubt in Shanks is actually an interesting thing. But obviously, at the end of the day, I think Shanks loves being a pirate and he loves Roger and he, while he wants to encourage Luffy, I think he loves Luffy too. So like, I mean, we know Shanks was a pirate long before he started doing this LARPing as a celestial dragon stuff, and you know, in the chapter Oda introduces this idea, he doesn't even play it straight because he's also having Shanks help people. So we know as the readers that he's probably on the side of the angels, but it does show a bit of shadiness that he's willing to do this. And that he's so good at the acting. I feel like there's enough hints to feel confident in him, which is why I'm not confident in him. That's a good point. Um I think Shanks is gonna be like a Dumbledore figure, where he's ultimately a good person, but he stooped into some moral grays because of his concern, and because he thought, the world needs to be ready and it needs its next Roger, its next Joy Boy. But I would like to think that the moment with Luffy was a bit more organic, and he didn't like maybe losing the arm was a nice bonus because he's free of the curse. He's free of the mark, but I like to believe that he didn't lose it on purpose. It is also a massive power nerf, right? Because he's left-handed. Okay, I'm gonna move on from this, unless there's anything else anyone wants to mention. Come on, Shamrock. I wish to deepen my knowledge of the Holy Land, and I shall apprehend the traitor and claim the credit I deserve. Are there any leads? Godsteel devotee, Figureland family, Saint Shamrock. It can wait until your wounds are fully healed, Shanks. Knight of God, Figureland family, Saint Shamrock. Saint Shanks is so weird to see, but they kind of swap looks, don't they? Like after this, like after Shanks leaves, like I wonder if Shanks left the cravat in his room when he left to become a pirate again. And Shamrock is like, "This is my brother's cravat. I'm gonna wear it from now on." And like Shanks goes back and he's like, my brother had some drip. I'm gonna start wearing rock the like shirtless look. Or maybe this is Shamrock's cravat, and when he was like, "Brother, welcome to our order. I'll give you my prized cravat." And then there's like a scene where like Shanks is in his room and he's like looking between the cravat and the straw hat, and he picks the straw hat. That's not gonna happen, but I could see some really crappy fanfic doing that. Return it to me once you become a great god's knight. No! I want fan art. I want fan art of like like Shanks stumbles onto the red line, he's on his knees, and like Shamrock looks at him and he's like, "Brother, brother, it's been so long, I thought I would never see you again. This cravat means a lot to me. Return it when you become a great god's knight." No! Oh my god. Someone clip this and send this to Togashi. That's awesome. That's awesome. Jim, you are a funny man. He did originally intend to just save Luffy. Sorry. Sorry, Dex. I'm trying to read your comment here. He did originally just intend to save him, but due to Luffy appearing like Roger, he might have decided the mark was unnecessary. Maybe, but even then, like, it's way too late for... it's always like... I don't want to open the can of worms that is Uta, but like... Wait a minute! Guys, I just realized, like, he left his daughter! if we are to take Uta as canon, right? Which Oda clearly wants us to do because he drew her into that one panel, right? Uta does not leave Shanks' side until another 2 years from now. So like, is Uta just waiting on the ship somewhere while Shanks is LARPing as a friggin' celestial dragon for a year or two or whatever this is? No Uta? I did not think of this, but if the backstory is correct, he had to leave Uta to become a celestial dragon. Like, did he give him to Yasop? Or it's like, Ben Beckman, you're the best first man I could have asked for. Here's my daughter. Take care of her for a year. This is kind of ridiculous. Also, well, I guess they just know that Uta is Shanks' daughter for other reasons. But could you imagine if he was like, "Oh yeah, I've got a daughter on the surface, I adopted her." It doesn't really match this personality of "I hated everything down there," does it? Makes sense. Every dad is a bum on Shanks' crew. Do you think that's how he recruits them? He's like, "Oh, I'm not even gonna ask Whitebeard to join me because he's actually a good dad. I'll recruit all the bad dads in the series. So here, look, you're out. Odin, you're probably out. We only want the crappiest dads possible." He's gonna get Spandine on his crew. He got Dad of the Year. Yes, up to look after his daughter. Oh my god. I've milked these 2 pages for all they're worth. Shamrock is actually... I don't know if Shamrock is concerned about Shanks, but he's like, yo, you don't need to worry about that. Like, you can wait to heal before we start investigating, which... sus? I'm a bit... I want to believe that, like, Shamrock isn't an idiot, because he should suspect Shanks, right? Because he's like a newbie former from the surface world. Who else is gonna leave the door open for this? But whatever. obviously, like, it's kind of interesting. Like, they've got the, like, Shamrock seems to be right-handed. Um, like Oda's like got all of these like opposite parallels with all of them. Like Shamrock, like it's a bit weird. I'm wondering if like that's why Shanks is all scarred up and has lost the arm, whereas like Shamrock's the prissy boy who's perfect and has never had a scar. I think that that might actually, like, if they ever face off, he's gonna be like, oh, you're the delicate one who has never actually known combat. You just rely on your sword to do the work and your regeneration. Whereas I've been in combat, I've, defended important things like my friends. These scars aren't just scars; they're lessons. Blah blah blah. Typical shonen stuff. I stand by Spiel being relevant. I'm sorry, I forgot who Spiel was. I meant to be the One Piece expert. That sucks. Like, I can't remember who Spiel was. Anyway, you cannot fathom the anguish of having wasted the last 24 years of your life. No wonder the rest of the world seemed so alien to me. I hated everything down there. And Harold's like, yo, I'm not buying this. I'm not buying this act at all. um the magic clown dude in the One Romance Stone prequel. Oh, that's why I don't know. Because, it's not really One Piece. Yeah, actually that's one of the only instances where Oda in a One Piece like thing has used magic instead of a devil fruit. We've obviously got Miss Golden Week and whatever Emu's deal is, and these Django uses hypnosis, but yeah, for the most part, things are just devil fruit. I kind of feel like when we're getting closer to the heart of the matter, we should understand that like I've always felt that Haki is just the fuel for devil fruits, which is why Haki can cancel out devil fruits. I was hoping that maybe this mass talk that we had with Garp and Roger might have, shed some light on it, but apparently Oda, only 1,167 chapters into the series, is not willing to not willing to lock himself down into a power system and explain how it works. So we're gonna have to wait for that young up and comer Oda to really lock in and describe how the power system works in One Piece. But I like to believe that Haki is the fuel for all magics and devil fruits, and that's why it cancels out. Poli as well. Yeah, Poli. That's a good shout, Jim. Um, he stole the rock and all. Yeah, that's the big bird in that chapter. I actually did an edit of that, which was kind of worthless because it's such a well done episode by Toei. It had like no filler. Um, they like adapted Romance Dawn version 2. Romance Dawn version 2 is really interesting because it was made as a refinement of Romance Dawn version 1, but because it was gonna be in Jump itself, Oda wanted to hide Garp. No, not hide Garp, hide Shanks. So he had Garp fill in for Shanks as the one who gives Luffy the straw hat. It would be a very different show, but also like, man, the addition of giving Luffy that arc where he stabs his eye and then learns what the value of a true scar is really ties together that whole chapter. And also like like giving all the entire like 45 pages to Luffy's backstory is so much better than cutting between them. I feel like if you had 100 pages or something, you could start with Luffy coming up out of the barrel, then flashback and do the entire flashback, and then have the Sea King show up in the present crisis. But yeah, I mean, I'm going off on a spiel here, but Romance Dawn version 3 is so much better. You've seen that old sketch of Shanks where he's literally called Night Shanks or something? I actually haven't. That's pretty crazy. If that's, I've not seen that. Anyway, so Harold doesn't buy what Shanks is selling here. Um, I think Shanks might have gone a bit too ham here. I oh my god. Could you imagine if he's like, okay, I need to seem like an absolute prick. I'm gonna rehearse some lines with you, Beckman. And like they're just in a cabin, like running over like, all the crap which celestial dragons have said over the years and they've overheard, and it's like, oh, I want to make that person my slave, and oh, that person's a scumbag. Like, do you think he practiced this, or is he just that good a liar? I'm gonna see if you can find it real quick. Yeah, no worries. The live action took 3 episodes to tell Luffy's flashback. Yeah, I really didn't like that, Carl. I thought the live action had some really good strengths, but splitting up the Shanks backstory just makes it weaker because you get the setup for the lesson and you don't get the payoff and learning the lesson until an episode later. It's very questionable. But I do think the live action improved in some ways over the manga material it was adapting, particularly Buggy making the townsfolk his audience and setting the Kuro stuff in the mansion. I think is a much better set piece. I don't know if I can send links. I sent it to you. Where did you send it to me? Oh wow, yeah, I can pop that up here. Thanks, Dex. I hope you're enjoying the stream. By the way, I'm trying to make this more of a habit. If you know anyone who you think would enjoy the stream, feel free to share it to them. I do kind of like this cozy, like intimate kind of setting now, a bit more. But the Tale of the Dragon Boy, 3 years after Knight Leader Shanks. Wow, I actually have not seen this before. That's super interesting. That's super interesting. It doesn't look like any of these other names came back. Oda really liked his stripes on his animals. And stupid haircuts. Look at the people in the background. Knight Leader Shanks. I mean, we always thought that Shanks's name. I mean, I speculated this week that Shanks's name is tied to Shangara here, but we always thought that Shanks's name came from Longshanks, which it probably does, to be fair. The King Edward the First of England. So we've got a monarch, and we've got. I mean, man, there's always a lot of like overlapping stuff in this names which Oda picks. Like, did you know that like Frankie is named after two ships, the Cutty, which you can see here, the Cutty Stark in London, and the Fram. Yeah, here's the Fram. Oh god, my PSP. Um, yeah, we see the Fram. Actually, why am I holding a Coke? Should I get rid of the Coke? I kind of like doing something with my hands. I'll keep the Coke, or maybe I'll make a tea or coffee. What do we think? Tea, coffee. Should I be super weeb? If I ever speak Japanese, I should be like Daijobu this and like just activate this. Oh god, no, I can't be a schoolboy again. I've lived that life. How do I get rid of this crap? Yeah, so the Fram, so obviously that evolves into Frankie. So Oda puts a lot of thought into the names. Kuso has a ton of this early concept art collected. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, Kuso, I really want to talk more to him, He seemed like such a vibe. Um when you end stream. Yeah, definitely, definitely. Warida. Maybe I will. I'm enjoying it a bit. I generally enjoy chatting, and I got caught tipping up, tripping up by Japanese linguistics. Cool, cool. Um, I think we should power on to the finale of the chapter. Well, it's been fun. My phone is on 10%, so I need to wrap it up before like my avatar will stop moving. So yeah, Harold clearly isn't buying what Shanks is selling. I wonder how long Shanks spends as like it can't be more than 2 years. I assume it's less, but I assume he never goes further than being a God Steel. But it would be interesting if he did. That same year, the fishing village on Elbaf. No, it's no good. My medical knowledge is too limited. Let's call Harold and see if he can get us in touch with a more skilled doctor. That's such a friggin' shade, by the way. Like, it's okay to say my skills are limited, but to like be like, let's find a more skilled doctor when you're standing next to the doctor, it's such shade. Don't. He's got a lot on his plate now. What's the point of fostering a network with the world government if we don't use it? I can recover on my own. Huff. And they're giving her an IV, which is interesting. Mato, keep the tavern open. No way. How can I when you're this sick, Ida? Um, I've got a question. This is not friggin' what's her face? Ripley, right? This is not Harold sorry, this is not Gaban's wife. But she's the one who runs the shop in the future. So what happened to Mato? Also I want to ask is that where Harold met Shanks? Did Gaban be like show up with Roger on Elbaf at a certain point with baby Shanks? And is that where he rizzed up Ripley? Or like I genuinely feel like there's two scenes missing. A scene of Harold meeting baby Roger and like a more extended version of Saul's arrival on Elbaf. But Oda has crammed in an impressive amount here. This is the kind of thing. This is the kind of episode where I really want to see the anime version. Because I feel like the anime sometimes has a bit of connective transitional tissue that the manga sometimes needs. But most of what the anime adds is, teeth grating. My idea is that Harold and Roger must have met, hence why he thinks he's met both Shamrock and Shanks. That's what I said earlier. But I mean, it could just be vibes. It could just be like that. He's from God Valley, like Rox was. But I assume that they did meet. But like, when did they meet? Did they meet in a like? Because like during the entire period, Harold was serving the government and ambushing pirates. So did they fight? Did they meet his enemies? And like, I'm kind of wondering how Giban safely retires when like Harold is like the government's lapdog. But then again, Harold does nothing when Soul comes a calling and he knows he's a fugitive and is even like, yeah, sure, pick up some books and set up a school. No one's gonna inspect Elbaf. Whatever. I whined about that for a while. Um, you keep saying that, but you're getting weaker by the day. You have to get better. Harold will be heartbroken if you don't. It's kind of, your life doesn't matter, but you'll upset the king if you die. Whenever Harold's home, he always goes straight to the elders and begs them to allow you to legally marry. I'm wondering if Viz is like straight to us elders and beg us to. I need to look at the line again in Japanese because I like this guy looks pretty old himself. Um, God, something which the manga is a bit failing to do is show the scale of the giants when it's just giants in the scene. This just looks like three regular sized people having a conversation, right? I feel like if this was Oda 20 years ago, he would have went out of his way to make this a really interesting framed conversation, but look at how many scenes Oda is cramming into this chapter. It's an amazing chapter, but it covers so much stuff and it works so well, but I feel like he is finally telling the story he always wanted to tell. And the sad thing is he doesn't have as much time to tell it. Which is kind of why I want to see the anime version of some of this stuff. Just not for the storytelling wise, but just the presentation difference. I think there's some stuff which I always feel like Oda wishes like he could have an extra page or two. Maybe that's why he recognizes Shanks during the incident, because he's seen the way he moves or some BS. Maybe it's like some hockey BS, like I sent that aura. um that fool knows I'm happy with my tavern. I enjoy befriending sailors from all over the world. It may not be much, but I feel like I'm helping Harold by doing that. So she's like the PR of Elbaf. It's like, hey, the Giants aren't that bad. I went there and I had a pint, and I didn't die. I didn't get much further than the tavern, but it was nice. And she's like, I'm helping Harold with personal relations. Hey, foreign hag, Loki. Like, Nato comes out to confront Loki. Cook this up for the old hag, will ya? The tavern's my main hangout spot. I want her to reopen it. So Loki, seems to, want Ida back on her feet, mainly for his own selfish reasons here. Nothing going on. Ignore the title, damn it. Good grief. That troublemaker has grown out of hand. I'm glad you've been able to keep him in line, even with Harjin and his friends away, looking for a doctor. Your boys really love you. I thought it was best to go with boys here and not sons, because I don't want people to think of the title just now. I think it's more powerful on the next page. I think it's a perfectly valid choice. But I could see why people would be like, "Oh, you should use sons here first." But eh. I think next page is gonna be more of a gut punch. Everyone's blowing this out of proportion, Huff, but I'll be fine. But it does make me smile. And the last page of the chapter, which again I've got a bit of issues with. It's a bit heavy-handed. I kind of wish that Loki uncovered this in a different way, because whenever we've got like gloating evil characters, it's a bit comic booky evil. Like these people would give friggin' the Kurozumis a run for their money. Elbaf, Alcohol Village, hometown of Loki's birth mother. Huh? What did you just say? We were talking about how utterly unbearable it would be to let that foreign bitch worm her way into the royal family. You're with us, right, Loki? We're Estrid's relatives. She was Harold's true wife. We can't let anyone have a claim on our inheritance. That's why I slipped her a dose of poison. This stuff is fatal. Her days are numbered. Mato, we can't wait to get a hold of Harold anymore. On it. We may not be related by blood, but I see him the same way I do Harjin. Loki is my cute little son. Loki, hey! Ida isn't gonna die, right? I still remember my birth mother. She hated me. She had me thrown into the realm of the dead. Who gives a crap about inheritance? Your whole family is nothing but trash. Now answer. Ida won't actually die, right? She's the only mother I've ever known. And we got a flashback of Ida being like, "Oh, you're so lonely. Why don't you come hang out with us?" And his true feelings are pouring out. And I kind of think that this should have been translated, but that's a crack sound effect. Maybe it's just a crackling fire. Maybe he's not snapping his neck. Maybe. The scene did make me tear up when I was on it earlier. Chapter 1167 End. This guy is the worst murderer. He would suck in Among Us. He would suck in Werewolf. He would suck in Mafia. He can't even, like, it was me with the poison in Alcohol Village. Like, why are you talking to anyone about it other than the conspirators who were involved, Like, I know you probably think that Loki hates Ida, which, is kind of stupid because his main hangout is her bar. But, why? Whatever. Whatever. Estrid is an idiot. Estrid's family are stupid. They believe in friggin' feng shui. And feng shui is cool, don't get me wrong. I don't want to upset feng shui people. But, they're superstitious. They are obsessed with wealth. And apparently they've just got very, very, like, loose lips. It's because they're drunk as hell? I guess so. It is Alcohol Village. I kind of wish we got to see them drinking before we saw that. Um, the scene's gonna hit hard in the anime. Yeah, I think with music, it'll definitely hit hard. I also think like if we got like a 5 minute, like not 5 minute scene, but like a couple of minutes just to reorientate ourselves with Loki and his concern about Ida. Also, what is this friggin' mallet Amy Rose friggin' hammer that Loki has? Like he's holding like this crap. Where does he get friggin' Mjolnir from later? This is not the same hammer. Is it? I swear it's not this crappy mallet. He's rocking up with like friggin' magic mallet from Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah, he's looking up with this crap. Where is his proper hammer that no one can lift by him? Pika Pika hammer. Yeah, that's it. How do you see Loki and just admit to killing the only person who's ever been nice to him? I know! It's so ridiculous. Yeah, it's definitely not Ragnar. That's what it's called. It's not Mjolnir, it's Ragnar, because Ragnarok. Interesting. I forget these details because it has been 10 million years since we've been back on Elbaf. Yeah, I mean, Elbaf seems to have had a terrible pyromaniac problem ever since Big Mom. Big Mom burns a village. Loki has burnt multiple villages. Loki's burnt a village right now. And the friggin' God Knights are burning a village as we speak. And Loki started a fire as well. I don't know who, like, I guess that just comes with the territory of living in a tree, right? Like, only you can prevent forest fires. But yeah, I mean, they've got the worst luck. Arson is just the cool crime right now. I want to hear from you guys. How many chapters do you think we have left in the flashback? Me and my friend Gal keep having a bet, and he's like 10 more chapters in the flashback. I think 3. I think we'll get a chapter of Idib's death, and Loki and Harold maybe bonding over it, maybe not, but Loki starts to explore the world a bit, and Harold gets whatever task he's meant to be doing. Then a chapter for the actual event with Ja Rule there and whatever happened, and Loki eating his fruit, and maybe Loki gets Ragnar as well, and Loki going on the run, and then a final chapter of Loki's life in montage on the run, and how because Oda doesn't like to hold on flashbacks after the tragic events. Like if you read the Robin flashback, he spends like half a chapter on the remaining 20 years of her life. We might get those details later, but I feel like the only thing we'll see is Shanks rocking up and arresting him without hearing him out, I guess. 2 chapters, I'm guessing. That's interesting, Carl. 1 to 2 says Dex. Okay, so Galaxy's crazy saying that it'll be 10. I think leaning more towards 2, but timing wise, 1 would fit more to break with the break for a cliffhanger. I don't think Oda's gonna end it in 1 chapter. I just don't think it's possible. Considering how this chapter was, I can see them combining Ida and Harold dying in the same chapter. Years have to pass between that event and this event, right? Like when does, is it only 1 year from now? In my head, it's 14 years ago Harold dies, and Loki got arrested 6 years ago, but I could be wrong. So it might actually just be 1 year that he has to cover now. I could be wrong. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, dense. Man, I'm dense. I didn't know what you're talking about at all. Oh my god, these kawaii cute poses I can do are so gross. I really need to explore what all of these hotkeys do. This one's okay, I guess. I can go full on like, oh, my waifu. The joys of VTubing. I really want to customize this avatar more. All I've done is give him an F for Fiso. And the straw hat, which I'm gonna swap out for, like, if I talk about Naruto, I'll put on a Naruto headband or something. What was it Loki was supposed to explain again? Why he killed Harold. Yeah! Loki has Loki no me. Loki has man, I forget, I'm making the joke, but I am the joke right now. Loki has ADHD, just like I actually do. Like, you just get sidetracked. What I genuinely think is happening is, like, Loki begins the story and the narrator just takes over, because the narrator's saying so many details that friggin' Loki can't possibly know. Like, who told Loki about Fisher Tiger? And Shanks. Did Shanks tell Loki about that when he's, like, beating him up in 4 years from now, and he's gonna be like, yes, I showed sympathy to Fisher Tiger once, and I regretted that. So I'm not gonna let you go, Loki. Like, I doubt it, so I'm pretty dang sure that this is just the narrator taking over. Gaban filling in the gaps? Potentially. I've never rigged a model before. But if I can lend a hand, let me know. Yo, that'd be really sweet. You're a great pal, Dex. Jamal. Where is it? Yeah, you're a great pal, Jamal. Yeah, I mean, I paid for this model. It wasn't much. It was like 30 things. It's a pre-made model, but I can customize the colors. That's the default color scheme, which I think is a bit garish. The only thing which I don't like about this is the way the lips move. But I'll probably customize it more. Jamal. Shanks. Loki on the off chance you bump into a kid called Luffy, I'll tell you my entire life story. Yo, for real though? Yo, I actually want to cut to Luffy and he, like, hopefully he's not asleep, right? Luffy's been getting better, right? Like, in Fishman Island he was asleep. Well, friggin' in friggin' Arlong he takes a walk, right? In Fishman Island he goes to sleep in the middle of the story. In Odin, he actually, like in Wano, he actually listens to Odin's entire flashback. and is really upset by it. So hopefully, like, that trajectory continues, and he actually listened to all this crap. But like, the first thing he should be asking is like, "Wait, Shanks was a baby, and my dad saved him, and then he was a celestial douchebag." Really, the mention of Shanks wakes him up. Yeah, I mean, I think going off of early Elbaf, Luffy would have punched Loki in the middle of the story for slandering Shanks. It's like, Shanks is not a prick. Take the back. Luffy's like a professional Shanks glazer at this point. Even Zoro was like, "Oh my god, this Shanks crap again. Will you shut up?" Yeah, I wonder if I can edit the rigging of this model, or if I would need to get a custom model. Do you know how much custom models are? They're like $300, and this was just 30. The rigging is better for the lips when I switch to like this, where you can see the lips open a lot clearer. But it's odd. We should have had a full-on Tom and Jerry panel where Luffy pops his head in through the page and goes, "Shanks." Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the anime cuts to Luffy being like, "And then what happens?" every now and again, because this is like 10, 11 chapters without Luffy, which the anime hates doing. But they don't have a choice. Imagine if we get like a specific like Harold and um Rocks themed opening for the anime for like 20 episodes. Depends on the artist. Also, rigging depends a lot on the software you're using to capture movement. I'm using VTuber Studio. My phone is being the camera. Okay. So overall, what are you guys feeling about this chapter? Like, out of 10, how would you rate it? For me, it's a solid 9. I think this chapter is literally chapter 0, part 2, where we cut to so many scenes. I'm loving that Oda remembers that the Florian Triangle exists. It gives me faith he'll wrap it up. Um, I feel like Harold is continuing to be a bit of an idiot and a bit too naive. It's kind of funny to see Linlin in this transitional state. Ochoko and friggin' Shiki are probably never gonna appear again outside of cameos. So if this is their send off, give your salutes to them. Buggy in the Nika pose, worth the admission itself. We see the Oro Jackson here, which by the way, I found out where the friggin' where the friggin' egg came from. It came from Link's Awakening. I've been playing some Zelda games recently, and I was like, "Oh my god, Roger, Roger woke up the windfish." Um, we get for the millionth time the recap of Roger's death for people who are just starting One Piece in chapter 1167. I refuse to say 6-7, by the way, because I'm almost 30. Um, like, you're not gonna get a clip of me saying it. Um, this shallow sea, deep sea stuff is the most interesting lore stuff. It also gives us a good indication on the final fights in the series. We can expect 13 opponents. 13 being the freaky number. I'm not that surprised by it. We also had the Gorosei. Each of their magic circles were numbered, but I don't think I don't think Shamrock's was. So I'm not sure what that means. But maybe like it could go up to 13. Um, this scene is a bit of a nothing burger where they're just like, "Oh, we'll give you a phone and you can hang out and do nothing." This is a bit of a waste of a page actually. But Actually maybe not because the Shangara stuff is on this page, and maybe that's relevant. Um, what would be really cool is if this isn't Celestial Dragon architecture, and it belongs to the friggin' Lunarians. But I don't want to go too crazy on theorizing about that right now. Um, friggin' drunk off his chest hair Neptune divulging everything about Chirahoshi's like potential as Poseidon when he was so shy about talking about it with Robin is ridiculous. But her being Mosa is a twist which you could see coming, but it's still a bit hard to believe, especially with the way they talk being so different. But I mean, I guess it would give away the game. I'm really curious to see what becomes of that. Maybe Loki is Shirahoshi's type. We never did find out. If it's not Vanderdecken, then who would she like? This soul scene is a bit ridiculous. It's super rushed. I kind of wish Oda gave us like an extra page or two of Soul being found and his, you know, like being treated for burns, um, going to collect the books, and him, Harold, talking about how he's gonna have to hide it from the government or something. The Fisher Tiger stuff is awesome. I'm super glad Shanks gave a hand here. Um, it kind of undercuts this kind of like question about him, like his motivations. But I feel like Oda is constantly gonna give us a positive and a negative thing about Shanks. But for now, like we can just assume he's LARPing, and maybe he's LARPing both sides. But ultimately, we know he's a pretty solid guy for doing this. Seeing Tiger again, he's one of my favorite flashback characters, so that's sick. Tying in Hancock and stuff, and even Koala. I mean, I wasn't expecting Koala to be a slave from Mary Joie exactly. I mean, I know she was a slave, but I wasn't sure that like she was kept in Mary Joie, and she escaped in this event. But maybe that was went over in the Fisher Tiger flashback. I need to reread it. Shanks LARPing is awesome. The question marks about his arm and how far he went to convince Luffy to be a pirate is my biggest question marks on him. But ultimately, I think he's a good guy with shady motivations. And the Ida stuff is a bit heartbreaking, but I mean, it's super heartbreaking, especially with Loki. His actual mother is dying now. But man, these guys are comically evil. Okay, just gonna read your last few notes, and we'll be signing off. Um, they should do something like they did for Kuma's flashback. 12 out of 10. Wow, Jim, you really liked it. They gave Bonnie her own opening and at the end and end for the Kuma flashback. That would be pretty sick. I haven't actually looked at the One Piece openings in like two openings now, so yeah, I kind of need to catch up on that. Um, I'd love to try rigging a model at some time. I might end up down the rabbit hole. Yo, if you do it, um, I would be very interested in talking to you about it. Thanks, Dex. 10 out of 10 chapter, but Harold can go to hell. 9 out of 10 for me, too. I'd say 9 purely because of it's a little too fast, too. Yeah, here's the thing. I say 9 out of 10 because, like, I put on the thumbnail best chapter of the year, and I do kind of believe that. But it's just the execution. I feel like the execution could have been a bit better. And yo, my avatar has become a PNG because my phone is out of battery. So I'm gonna really wrap this up real quick right now. Okay. Um, the egg, bro. If it's that egg, that means yeah. Who knows what it means, man? It means One Piece is a dream. I'll insist that Shirahoshi is a red herring. I mean, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind if it was a red herring. It would just mean that Oda is definitely online though, and heard the Moja Moja comparisons and was like, "Oh, Mosa is very similar." um, Loki loves pink-haired girls. She is 16 though, Carl. I would be very careful about this. um, Good stream, brah. At least it froze in a dignified position. Yeah, yeah. When photos freeze, especially like real human faces, it just is universally ugly. So I'm happy it froze in a decent way and I wasn't blinking, or this isn't like, an actual video. Thank you for the stream. It was a vibe. Absolutely, Jim. I'm so glad that so many people showed up this week. It really makes bouncing off ideas much easier. I've wanted to do these breakdown kind of streams for a while, but I have the last couple of weeks, but my energy's been kind of low because I do it right after the chapter drops and it's usually super late for me. And the stuff I was explaining was super basic and there wasn't much interesting tidbits to dig into, but this was a meaty chapter. And I'm gonna say it's a definite 9, just, a bit fast on the execution, but to me this is my chapter of the year. There might be stuff earlier in Elbaf that I'm forgetting about, but super solid stuff. Good stream, I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed my stay a lot. Made my night reading a bit more wholesome. Thanks, Dex. Hopefully I will catch you guys next week. I'll try and schedule the stream like a few hours in advance so anyone who's subscribed can see it's coming. Um, because the way I do it right now is I'm like, okay, I'm finally free. I've finally done all my work for today. I can stream and I just announce it like 5 minutes before it happens. So I'm not surprised that I do this alone most weeks, but you guys really made it this week and this was a sick chapter and hopefully we'll see you guys again next week. Till then, peace.